It's day 3 of this challenge that I started, which is the 90-day in video challenge. And I must say, it actually feels so good doing what I'm doing. Because right now I'm sitting in my living room and there is this email that I received yesterday, which kind of summarizes everything about how I feel. Just take a look at it. So, this is an email that I received just yesterday from one of my listeners, and that's what he had to say about this challenge that I've started. Well, I can tell you one thing, that it's actually people like this that actually make up it's actually people like this who actually make up for everything that you do. And this challenge that I started 2 days back is just day 3. It's already feeling like a success. So I don't know why I'm sitting here in the living room and doing all of this, but let's go into my office and let's make this place a little bright. So, well, that's my office, and well, yes, you can call me narcissistic, but well, that's what I have on my desktop. All right, so let's make sure this is right. All right. I hope this is clear. Now, the reason I started the 90-day challenge to put out a video every single day is because I wanted to overcome this fear that I've been always living with, which is the fear of being on camera. And I somewhere read that putting yourself out in public is the best way to face your fear, because that's the best way you can actually get to not just complete something because you want to complete it, but because people are now watching you and measuring you every single day if you're actually completing it or not. Now again, I think the email that you saw from one of my listeners and email subscribers is a summary of everything that I'm feeling right now. The reason I'm doing this is not just because I want to overcome the fear, but also the fact that I want everybody who sees this video to take this as an opportunity to tell yourself that you can also overcome that fear that you have. Just record yourself doing whatever you're really, really fearful about and put it out in the public every single day. Join me. You can join me by doing that. Just shoot yourself with a video camera or just your smartphone and put it out in any social media, hashtag 90 days in video. All right, so today I want to talk about exactly that, which is audience. In yesterday's video, if you have not watched, go back and look at it, because I talked about how you can actually get people to be on your podcast or be a part of the idea that you are pursuing. So I want to talk about the other side really quick. When you talk about getting guests on your podcast, you also have the other side, which is your audience, your listeners. Now, if it doesn't matter you're running a podcast or you're making a product or whatever it is, you have audience. You can call your audience listeners or viewers or readers or buyers, or there are different kinds of audience depending on the kind of business you run. I have audience of two kinds. I have readers, I have viewers, and of course I have the third audience, which is my customers. Now, audience is something that's very important when it comes to anything, and especially with a podcast. It's your audience that actually help you come back every single day and put up an episode so they can listen and give you feedback, like what you saw one of my listeners do. Now, how do you actually build engagement with this audience? This is one of the biggest questions I've been asked many times in the past, and unlike many others who actually jump into the podcasting world because of a trend in podcasting, I started in 2016 when there wasn't much of a influx so to speak, about podcasting. It started later, after 2016, 2017. But when I actually decided to do it, podcasting was, in one of the not so great stages. Now, talking about that beginning, I had an email list to start off with. I had a blog that I started just 6 months before I launched the podcast. And that email list is what led me to my first few listeners. When I actually started the podcast, I did not start the podcast just because I wanted to do it. I actually went out to my email list and asked them what they wanted to listen if I were to start a podcast. So that's how I started the podcast back then. Now, there are various people who do it in various different ways. A lot of people who are celebrities start off the podcast and it goes off to the top of the charts just because of the fact that they already have an audience. They might not have an email list, but they do have a fan base or a customer base that they can launch this podcast into. So today's video, I want to talk about a few strategies that you can use to actually build your audience right from day one for launching your podcast. So a really quick update about today's video is I don't have two different cameras. It's just this camera that I'm looking at. So you probably see me looking at you all the time. But that said, this video is going to go on for longer than 10 minutes. But I promise that by 10 minutes, whatever you're going to see is definitely going to be valuable. So if you're watching this video on LinkedIn, you probably are going to get a lot of value. But then if you're watching on LinkedIn, I'll put a link right there that you can jump onto YouTube and watch, where I will add some more value beyond the 10-minute point, because LinkedIn has a limit of 10 minutes. I don't know why, but it's what it is. So it's about slightly over 6 minutes or close to 7 minutes here. So really quick about audience. Audience is one of the most important aspects of any business. It could be, like I said, a podcast. It could be an e-commerce. You could be running an Etsy store, a Shopify store, or you could be doing a brick and mortar business. Does not matter. Audience is everything. So a few strategies that has worked for me, like number one, email. So if you're someone who does not matter what business you have, so long as you have an online business, email is a great way to actually build your audience. So where do you find your audience? Now, the answer to that is wherever you think your audience are hanging out. Now, it could be that your audience is hanging out. In my case, when I started back then, my audience were hanging out in Quora forums. They were hanging out in various other blogs. They were commenting on other blogs. They were on LinkedIn. So I leveraged all these places. I went there and I shared what I wrote. Right now I'm creating a video, but then you could be creating a blog post. It could be an ebook. It could be whatever. I wrote an ebook back then, which kind of got downloaded several thousand times. And I actually started to have a ready-made a list of people that I could actually go to and ask them, what do you want to know from me? And would you listen if I actually launched a podcast? And that was one of the best ways. In hindsight, I had no clue as to why I was doing it. Somewhere I read that starting an email list is good, but nothing beyond that. So an email list is a great way of doing it. Now, if you're wondering how do you get started with an email list, you can jump onto my newsletter. I do have a few courses which I actually talk about, free courses of course, where I actually talk about how to build an email list and all of that. Now, that's the first strategy. Second, how do you build an audience? Many people actually think sharing your episodes on social media is a great strategy. Now, yes, it's a great strategy to get one or two listeners here and there. But how do you get a lot more listeners than what you can actually get otherwise? The best thing I've found to work, or the thing that I've found working great, is actually being on others' podcasts. So if you're somebody who has a podcast, get on others' podcasts in your niche. If you're having a podcast on food, get on a podcast where somebody's talking about health. You can get on a podcast where someone is talking about, say, lifestyle or fashion. Because food, lifestyle, fashion, you can actually find the audience to be very similar, because people who like to wear good dresses probably would want to eat good food too. So look out for places where you can find your audience, and look for podcasts in those areas and jump onto them. It's a no-brainer. Number three, guest posts. I've been asked to, well, beyond the first strategy, I've actually not tried the other strategies too much myself. I've been on others' podcasts, but I've not tried guest posting, for example, guest blogging, guest posting. I haven't done that myself, but that's one of the best ways you can actually go and grow your audience. In fact, I still don't know why I declined, or rather, I didn't take up an offer to guest post onto a blog, which was actually getting more than 70,000 or 75,000 visitors a month 2 years back. Well, it's in hindsight a bad decision, but then if you get a chance to write somewhere on someone else's blog, take it up. So these are three great strategies that I think you should really go ahead and pick up and try out if you're running a podcast or any business online. The first one, be on others' podcasts. Now, this need not apply to just podcasters. No matter what business you have, jump on podcasts in your niche. Like, I have guests on my show who come to promote books, so long as their business books or something related to overcoming a great thing in their life that they have learned from and something they have to share. They jump on my show and they talk about it. So if you have somebody in your niche having a podcast, a friend or a friend's friend, go and approach them and get on their show. That's one of the best ways you can actually promote your business online. So number one, jump on others' or number one is email list. Number two, jump on others' podcasts. And number three, write a guest post on someone else's blog. Now, if you are not comfortable with writing, now is a good chance. Go and start writing a blog. I mean, it takes no money to actually start a blog. Just go sign up on Medium and start writing. Join the 90 Days in Video Challenge and write a blog post every single day. Even if it's 200 words, 100 words, write that and shoot yourself on camera and tell the world that you have written a blog post and you have something to share, because everybody needs to know how to communicate. It does not matter how you communicate that. It could be while using your writing skills or your talking skills, or it could be video where you're actually showing your face on video like I'm doing right now. I can't believe I'm doing this. This is day 3 in this 90 Days in Video Challenge. So if you are ready to kick your butt and start with this challenge, go ahead. Do whatever it is. It could be writing, it could be speaking, it could be anything. It could be just perhaps drawing, whatever it is. Go start it and use your smartphone, take a video of you doing it, talk about what you've done and post the video, put the hashtag 90 Days in Video, and let's all cheer you up. Thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate your support. If you like this video, please share this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you find the link right below this video, click on that, subscribe to my YouTube channel. So exciting. Thank you so much. Till I see you tomorrow with my next video. Cheers.